What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Reality After Show covering Survivor 46 finale. I'm your host, Alex Trias, as always, joined by my ride or die, Dan Montchal. And while Matt's away, we get to bring Dan's side piece along. It's Wayne Memmott. Wayne,
what's
Dan,
up?
How was that finale? Opening thoughts. Wayne, start with you.
I loved it. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. To be fair, I watched the first 20 minutes on my phone in an Uber while religious music was being played in the background very loud, even though I asked for a quiet ride and had my headphones in. That being said, I really enjoyed this episode a lot. I will say they showed the jury differently than I think they've really ever showed the jury before, and I'm curious. I can't wait to talk about it.
I loved it. Dan,
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good finale. And of course, maybe I'm biased because preseason, I picked Kenzie to win. She ended up winning. I was right. Probably don't need to make another preseason prediction for a while. Just going to finish on top. But I already see the comments flying in of Charlie was robbed and, yada, yada, bitter jury and yada, yada. I see it everywhere. Well, I'm going to tell you tonight exactly why you're wrong. The right person won, but we don't need to start with that right away. We can dive into the episode, but let's kick it back to you, Alex. Where are you at on the finale?
Well, for all the people who've been clamoring ever since season 41, they're like, we want old school back. We want back to basics. No idols. We want people voting based off of the merit of them as a person. We got it tonight, folks. We got old school Survivor. We got no idols played. Survivor 46, they said, we ain't playing shit. We played one extra vote, and it was in a vote where it didn't matter. They threw all the twists. They said, hey, we'll give you rights if you step off. They said, fuck you. We're not going to take any of your rights. This is like, I'm willing to still not poop for an extra week before you give me rights out of pity. Like, I loved it. I had so much fun with this cast. I was thoroughly entertained. And
I was thoroughly entertained by that wrestling promo.
That's okay too. That's Survivor.
I also wanted to say that I finally have this huge sigh of relief because I don't think anyone has remembered it or caught on it. But if you remember it in the past seasons, I was like, oh, yeah, I'll tattoo bet if so-and-so wins, like they'll win. And it'd been like a Kane or someone I was like, doesn't really matter.
It was Kane.
Early on in the season, after Charlie gave his 97th, like Taylor Swift reference, and that was the only thing that he talked about, I did put Charlie out there. I said that would count for the season. Now, had he won, I would have denied it. I would have went back through and deleted the tape to make sure it never existed. But the fact that he didn't win, had that sigh of relief as well.
Yeah. So let's break it down from the top of the episode. We won't hit like all like the bits. Like we can really pretty much generalize most of it, which is nice.
Before we do that, because it's a finale and we do have 5 people listed on the intro and the other 2 are the ones that were survivors. Where's Matt and Johnny this week, guys? Let's because people are watching and we are on here with them and we know that we were not on Survivor, but we've watched more of it than Matt and Johnny. Not me, but Alex and Dan have watched more of it than Matt and Johnny.
Well, Johnny's obviously, for those who don't know, you would have been able to go to SurvivorTix.com all season long and go to all of his events all season long, and he was having a finale party at Jax's bar, and Matt is on assignment.
Yep, that's exactly it. Somewhere,
Matt. That's what some people call pegging, but how did that get out there?
That's what Tessa calls it. All right. Yeah, so Johnny is not here, but he is still on the feed. He's just not here tonight. So if you're asking where he is, I don't know, DM him. I'm sure he'll answer in an hour or 2.
Yeah. I know
so,
Matt has said that he wants to do. Yeah, Matt has said he wants to come on and talk about it when he has time. I imagine Johnny's probably going to join him for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have our, Jeff doing his usual shit of talking about the breakdown of the finale night. 2 votes, 1 fire making, 1 final tribal council, and a winner will be made with a live reunion. Then, I actually watched the first 5 minutes. It was more enjoyable than any of the ones I went to go rewatch the next day after podcasting. I like the drama. I love the drama of this cast. I had to put that out. I love how much of like egos they all had. It made it so entertaining for me, especially at Final Tribal Council where no one could shut up. Like, it wasn't even the players' Final Tribal Council anymore. It was just the jury villa at that point.
You could see all their reactions the entire night, not just at Final Tribal, but even during the fire. It was all about them. And I know I texted this to Alex. This is a clear, this entire cast of they're the authors of their own story. Like in their mind, they're not in the game, but this is still all about me. And why wouldn't it? Because I'm the main character here. They don't understand that they're not, but it's just something that adds to this cast and makes why it's been an enjoyable season, especially post Banu, where we really kind of started firing on all cylinders.
Hey, we have to thank Banu though. He tried to tell all the fandom. He tried to tell all the people who do, Edgic and all that. That for someone like me who loves reading the edit, I'm like, why are they having this man do a 1-minute promo where half of the words are him just saying mermaid dragon? Like, it has to mean something. Thank you, Banu. I never thought we would say that on this podcast, but thank you, Banu.
Thank you, Banu, for getting voted out before the jury. Thank you. That we did not have to deal with his question.
I mean, with that outcome, he did gain one of those 1 million hearts in myself. So there we go.
How many hearts do you think you got here on your Survivor journey, Kenzie? How close to 1 million did you get? That's his question. That's his jury question.
She at least has one additional one now. But anyway, so we get to the final five talking about people with egos and main characters. Maria's trying to backtrack on the vote. She's like, it wasn't my fault that I voted for you. It was everyone else's fault for deciding they wanted to make me look like an idiot. I would have never voted for you, Charlie.
Yeah, they wanted to turn us against each other. I wasn't the one that threw it out there. I was just going along with their plan. It's really the people that just saved you tonight. It's their fault.
Yep.
Against each other.
I agree. It's totally their fault. Like I got some brushback about me giving Kenzie and Liz a lot more of that credit for the Q vote. And no, I feel a little more justified, especially after tonight. They worked hard. They worked hard on that and they got it done. And I love that that's the approach Maria has to take. And Charlie's just like, let me go on confessional real quick before I actually keep communicating with you. I need to laugh for a little bit because I was not doing that same exact thing. I love this, but like that's always been Charlie's thing. And I think I mentioned it last week or 2 weeks ago. He kept mentioning about like I always wanted to have an option. I always wanted to have an option. I always wanted to have open doors. And I think to me, in one sense, that's a great way to play the game to get yourself to the end. But I think it's also a way that you can have more resentment or bitterness towards your game, because when you're open to everybody, they all get the Ponderosa. They find out you're open to everybody, which means you're open to nobody.
Very good point.
When playing Survivor, you have to remember that the people you vote out for jury get to spend the rest of the game together, just talking. So it's like it's not like they go off into isolation and never communicate with each other. They're just hanging out. So.
Yeah, but that's pretty much all we get for the night. It goes into the next day. And it immediately goes into the Final Five immunity. And a couple of things of note that were different here than the other 5 seasons.
We didn't have a word
new
search.
Era.
Fuck yeah.
There was no advantage word search. And there was no, hey, just because it's finale night, we're going to send you to a beach without supplies. I think they finally given up on it. Or maybe there was an environmental thing that someone said, like, hey, you're staying on the same beach now. Which, either way, kudos. We don't need it. Look, you don't have to add shit just to add shit. They'll just play themselves into looking like a bunch of idiots that I love.
No, come on. Fiji gave them an additional tax break if they used one less island, and that's the whole reason we got it.
Yeah.
Production's all about budget cuts at this point.
Yeah, they slipped them like 5% of the Applebee's revenue they got from the 100 million times it was mentioned in one episode. And they're like, okay, cool. You don't need to go to another beach. Just stay right there. I'm like, cool, we got you. But yeah, it's an immunity challenge. Guess what, guys? Obstacles. Retrieving a rope. You're going to drop a bridge. You're going to cross that bridge. You're going to retrieve a key on that bridge. And then you're going to finish and unlock a puzzle. But wait! We're taking it one step further. It's not just finishing a puzzle, guys. Then you have to do a combo lock.
Man, this is a challenge where I'm saying that the cast saved this challenge. Like the way that this played out, the way it played out was like, oh, that made this interesting. Because outside that, are you kidding me? This is like your first like merge. This is the first merge challenge. Not
Well, I will say it is like to an extent for what a 26-day budget is or whatever. It is similar to what they like to do on the finale, the first challenge of a finale night, where it's like there's multiple levels to it. And at one point you are going up something and may have to come down it.
Like, it was very reminiscent to it was the final immunity challenge we saw in a lot of the seasons that were in the 20s.
Yeah, that's exactly what's in my head right now.
Like I'm thinking like it's the one that like Boston Rob won, the one that Tyson won, and I'm sure there were a few more that happened in that same era, but it was generally the final immunity challenge, which I was okay with because it's something new. And sure, most of this cast isn't athletic to actually compete this challenge like without dying. But you're absolutely right, Wayne. The fact that they carried it through it, and it was something different. I just don't need to see the same final few immunity challenges over and over again. So completely fine with seeing this challenge.
And the twist on the puzzle was, I mean, by itself without the cast was like interesting enough that, you know, like that they were like actually confused, like what plank, you know, like, and Jeff didn't actually insert himself and like help somebody along like he has done so often in the new era, just by like comments like, oh man, Liz ran over that bridge. Like I was waiting for him to tell Liz that she forgot her key, and at least it wasn't in the edit.
If Ben finishes the puzzle first, how long is Ben there before he realizes that he has to go back for the plank?
What plank?
Exactly, what plank? But I loved that twist, but I also think this is where we get Jeff no longer amused by Liz, because I think like he loved the idea of having someone get to the puzzle, have it all done, and realize that the key, the answer to it is you have to go all the way to the back or the beginning of the challenge to then come all the way back, and instead she gets the help of Liz, and like Ben actually like walked over there too. Like literally everyone else is just walking over there while Maria's just like bossing it out. And she still almost gets there in time to attempt. But you know, the numbers get her. The numbers get her. You know, that's the thing with Survivor. Sometimes just like an old school Survivor, when you're just outnumbered, there's nothing else you can do.
I just assumed the word several was on there and just really screwed someone up.
Oh, there was no Jelinski count. I'm not counting the reunion if they mention it at all. I did not hear it once. They will say it. They will say it in the reunion because they're promoting season 47 and someone's going to say several.
I just had to bring it up because, you know, some of us pick winners like Kenzie and some of us pick Jelinski as our winner pick. Like
First losers, what's up?
Hey, legend.
I'm the guy that picked Jelinski, a legend. He's going to be back for 50. Watch out. He's going to win 50.
No, but like Liz doing that was just like, and it was like, without even like really consoling with Kenzie, was just wild to me. Like I was not expecting her to. At first, I thought she was going down there because technically, sure, you have to complete the puzzle, but it was just like, I thought she was going down to just grab her own. And be like, oh, I could just have it preset, finish my puzzle, and then win myself. because I thought maybe they'll have all of them with like different numbers of like holes or whatever, 1 or 2 difference, whatever.
Right.
And so like she brings her own back. Kenzie keeps trying to use Liz's and keeps getting it wrong. And then like Maria comes through because she just takes her own.
Or we could
Which
just
would have been
point out
exciting.
that Kenzie's social game is so strong that Liz went and did that without her asking.
You would think Liz would reward that by giving her a vote at the end.
Yeah, but I would say that maybe not. Yeah, I think maybe not Charlie, but if Ben had gotten there, I think Liz probably would have done the same thing for Ben. So it's not just Kenzie, but
Agreed. No,
yeah,
I agree. With that.
I agree.
it's more against Maria, I guess.
But yeah, but I like Maria's like no quit attitude here. Just like, look, I'm gonna be very not humble right now and go, if it takes the rest of the group to take out this mid-40s mom of 3 to beat me in an immunity challenge, I'll pat myself on the back there.
Yeah.
And you know what? I will give her flowers there. She was a boss at the challenges. I wasn't expecting it, especially early on with some of the challenges. I was like, she was fit, but I was like, what is she doing here? She's not doing great in any of these. And then there's just a certain moment during the individual phase where something clicks and things are going. I think there was pressure there too. I don't think Jeff should have been like preaching to the entire group that, hey, with one more immunity win, you are now in league with like Kim Spradlin and like all these like legendary women that have won 4 immunity challenges and won the game.
Yeah.
Or not win the game like Chrissy, but still.
I wrote that down as like, that's a stat you say afterwards. You don't say it ahead of time. You say it afterwards.
Well,
and then if it doesn't happen, then you say it in the reunion or whatever, the final part.
He said it after last week's where she got to 3. That was fine saying it, hey, you're 1 away. Like you're so close.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was no reason to say it again before this challenge.
Hey, why didn't we get one for Kenzie before the challenge? Like, hey, if you win this, you'll tie Maria for most immunity wins this season. Come on, where's the love there, Jeff? You're picking favorites. But
It's
Jeff's
putting a show over the
wall
cast
this season, so you can't really trust him to do whatever he did. Maybe he looked down at his feet and Survivor Man told him to do that. Those who know. But yeah, so it's after this. We get our reward. She takes Ben because she was always going to take Ben, but Liz is like, "Oh, don't take me. I'm allergic to spaghetti." Because they get to the sanctuary where good things happen, and I think only chill things happen because we get very little there. But I would have liked they should have been sponsored by Olive Garden. It's all I'll say.
Why not? At this point, why is not every sanctuary visit not sponsored by something else like budget cuts? Hey, I see plenty of sponsorship opportunities. I know.
Well, it's because when you're there, your family.
Your family.
See, it would have been perfect. So last week, I didn't want Charlie to take Liz because I wanted to see her melt down again. But this would have been the perfect time to take Liz because she can't eat and just have her sit there and watch you eat.
Liz, eat the spaghetti. Eat the spaghetti right now.
Oh, God.
Why are you doing this? I just want a medevac. I want to see what happens. No, but they're like, oh, nothing will ever happen unless she finds an idol or blindsides us. And Survivor did do the little trick that they like to do, especially in this season. They've like really thrown it into people's face who read the edit, where like they give some other person the right going out of the challenge confessional. They do that with Liz, who's just like, oh, nothing weird should ever happen here. It's a straightforward vote. Then you keep pushing over her head. It's just a straight over vote. It's just a straight over vote. What if she doesn't find an idol? She probably won't. And she doesn't, thankfully. We didn't need to see a 5th person go home with an idol in their pocket. But
well, no, 6th.
Well, in a row.
Plus Gem, yeah.
In a row. 6 total, but yes. But Maria tries to pull a vote, and originally I was like, oh, maybe she's going to try to pull it on Liz, the biggest threat in the game. But no, she tries to pull it for Ben, and her reasoning is because of the Kenzie vote that he placed. And I'm sorry, but you lose the argument as soon as you try to tell someone that Ben did that strategically.
Right.
I thought it was a ridiculous premise. And I hope that was Liz just pandering her and they took it kind of out. And as soon as Maria walked away, Liz was like, I don't buy that for a second. Because as it again goes through and Charlie is like, oh, it really seems like Liz is buying this. I was like, she's supposed to be smart. She can't be buying this. This is the worst argument I've ever heard.
And I'm not going to pull the chat up. Someone's like, oh, with Maria out, shouldn't that just made Charlie the winner because he knocked her out? It was a group effort. Everyone voted her. Mm-hmm. Everyone wanted to vote her. Kenzie was stand pat on voting her. And while Charlie was at least feigning giving the option open, which is, again, you send someone out not in the best way.
Liz and Kenzie collaborated at the challenge in order for Maria not to win immunity in order to get her out. Like, I mean, it wasn't just Charlie's game. Charlie's the most, said, I want to do it, but yeah, everybody wanted to.
Like, we can all claim a move. That's part of the Survivor. That's part of the sales pitch that you need to do in Survivor is pitch everything in a way that makes sense. But if you're in the final 2 with someone who has been in the forefront the entire time as I'm the one who makes all the moves, it's hard to then have that person go home and then be like, no, it was actually me the whole time. I did all the moves. Because, like, you have to keep feeding to the ego, and that's what I thought he was trying to do during this final tribal council. I'm sorry for bouncing around a little. I felt like that, for me personally, went away from my vote, even if I was someone who had more of an ego on that jury, because I felt all of his answers, he tried to direct it straight back to the person who gave the question and, like, hype them up. Instead, when they made it very clear, like, yeah, I want to be hyped up, but, like, I want you to be real with me right now.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so we have all that. We have is it going to be Ben somehow? The other person who will definitely win the game if he's there at the end because he's just so likable, which we have already proved time and time again. It doesn't just matter if you're likable. You have to actually have other stuff besides that. And even if it's being likable and sending people out to the jury with good feelings about you, that's different than just being a likable person. Right. We get the classic new era final 5 send off for the person who's like in a good spot for majority of the game and goes out. We had it with Ricard. I'm pretty sure we had it with Carla. Like it's just a consistent thing now where it's just like, oh, there is no idol there. Jeff knows there's no idol there, so now he's going to be more open at Tribal Council about, yeah, we all know this is a 4-1 vote. So like, tell me, what did this mean for you to play as a mother of 3?
I hated it. I hated it, not because it has anything to do with Maria, but you're absolutely right that this is the new this is the new norm now, that at Final 5 we have to give them this grandiose send-off of, oh, like you were the biggest threat here. You probably should have won the season, but it didn't work out for you. And they're trying to give them the Sari Game Changers moment of just a sad, somber, like how we don't want to see it happen. But you can't do that. The reason why the Sari Game Changer send-off, well, it should have never happened. That's a different, topic. But the reason why it's so impactful there is because it's a moment that either doesn't happen often or has never happened before. That's what gives something weight, that gets you to really be emotionally behind something.
Yeah.
If you're going to see it time and time again every season, it just waters down the overall product. And I didn't feel anything with Maria going home. Like I said, I felt annoyed that the entire tribal was just her hype video on the way out with sad music in the background.
Well, you know what more annoyed me, Dan? That it just made my power rankings wrong. I had my prediction for this, and I wanted to go against the grain because everyone was like, "Oh, yeah, Maria's out at 5. Charlie will get to the end." I'm like, what if it's different? What if we've been actually being told like this is why Charlie doesn't win, and Charlie gets to have the dramatic 5th place music and go home, and then Maria's the person who gets only 2 or 3 votes at the end, like because everyone else is just bitter at her for making all the moves and being very vocal about it. But for Maria's send off, I will say, I remember she had an up and down journey with us. We loved her in the premiere. There were some episodes where she then fell a little low. Rock, paper, scissors did happen. But overall, you can't tell me you didn't enjoy Maria as a part of this season. I feel like she was so important for the season. Even if she didn't get the confessionals to back it up, you could tell from like how the players talk about her and her game that she did play a strong game. Maybe not a winning game, but a strong game.
I like that she didn't get the stereotypical mom role. Like it was more against the grain from that. And I was never found myself where I was necessarily rooting for Maria. I wouldn't say that I was ever rooting against her. I was just glad that we saw something different because it would have been really easy to kind of use the edit to give her more of that mom role. And of course, she came and spoke vehemently against it right away. But I was just glad we saw something different there.
I agree.
Yeah, same. And to double down on that, like that her and Charlie's relationship wasn't characterized as like a mother-son type thing. He's a younger guy or whatever. It was just like a friendship, like more playing into that. It wasn't just a mom edit for Maria.
Yeah, and if she had lost at like Final Tribal Council, what I fully believe it's not because people were looking at her like, but I looked at you as my mom and you voted me out. Like we've seen in like the other seasons, like San Juan del Sur comes to mind for me. But that gets us to our final 4. And so it's night 24. They're all excited that they've made it there. Charlie now thinks he has a champion on that jury, and he definitely has another person on that jury. For sure. But this is where we
just happens to come in the form of Hunter.
So this is where we get more of the night terrors from Ben. And so the night terrors of it all really drives into the conspiracy theories a lot of people had, a lot of the potential spoilers that were like people were just throwing rampantly online for the past week. Whereas like I've talked to Dan offline, and for weeks now I've been mentioning how like they keep focusing this relationship between Ben and Kenzie. Like what if it's a tie at the end and he's the tiebreaker? Like I was always sure like my path since the merge was like Kenzie's winning this game, Ben's 3rd place, but is he the tie-breaking vote? But then there was more spoilers coming out like a couple days coming into the finale where they're like, yeah, that's actually what happens. He's the tie-breaking vote, and it's because of the night terrors and how she handles it. And so I feel like now, like sitting back, like digesting it, I'm like, now I think it was more so they wanted to push this to really show at the time for fire making Ben's conflict with who do I put down, because both of these people have been with me for so long in different ways. One in a game and a bro sense, one in a this person has become one of my best friends and she helps me at night when she does not need to.
That was, I mean, from the very first time we saw Ben has his night terrors, I remember coming on afterwards and speaking. And my biggest takeaway from it then was everyone was focusing on Ben and they wanted to shit on Ben because, it's new era and we never see this stuff before. But my biggest takeaway coming out of it was I see that they're highlighting Kenzie. They're highlighting her social game. They're highlighting how she'll go out of her way to make that additional bond, to be there for someone. And I think that's ultimately what it was about. And going back to the spoilers that you spoke of, you know where I was at, Alex. I was pissed. If that's what would have happened, I would have been pissed. I would have came on here and given a rant. So I'm just glad that it didn't happen.
Same. I love that people are still wrong, including us. I love being wrong too. It's very fun. We all should try it.
I thought Jelinski was going to win. So I just want to let everybody know it's fun to be wrong.
And I thought Jem was going to be the person with the highest chance of surviving from that original Sega group. We all can be wrong. Matt
Yeah,
Trump
it's
is
fun.
wrong literally all the time.
I think we also agreed on the podcast going into merge that if someone from Sega is going to win this game, it's definitely going to be Ben.
Hey, he got to the end. We were almost there.
We got half of it right, just
Yeah. Well, we also said he was either good at in the precast assessment. We also said he was the first boot because of the overalls.
Yeah, that was a pretty unanimous choice. I remember
So
that.
again, it's great being wrong. We all should try it and laugh. But okay, so we have all that. The Night Terrors again, just showing more of this bond that he has with Kenzie, and then they like sort of flash back to the earlier days where the Night Terror started popping up and all that. Really, overall, because he mentions it other times throughout this, it's really an opportunity for him to look inward and be like, all these people have been here for me. Maybe this is all just trying to tell me I need to be like there for myself and push through. And like obviously that leads to the final immunity challenge. But besides that, the other two plot points we have is Dumb and Dumber Alliance comes back around. And
that was awesome.
Love that.
That was
and
great.
Once again, just highlighting Charlie's ability to have options, and he wants to make sure he has the options of potentially getting to go to the end without having to do fire. Not that he's not capable of doing it, but he feels his game speaks enough for himself, or he will be able to speak on it enough that he doesn't need fire. Which, for that part, I very much agree with Charlie. Like, if we came on this pod and it was Charlie who won 5-3, I wouldn't have been surprised. I was like, either way, I could have seen it leaning.
But so I mean, I'm not one that would give a lot of credence to fire making. I kind of don't.
I agree.
That's not something that would build my resume, but it is something that's brought up enough by people that actually play the game. Do you think that if Charlie had pushed for himself to go into fire against Liz and won fire, that he would have won in this cast? Do you think that would have been enough? I think
it would have been a tie vote.
You think it would have been a tie vote?
I think it would have been a tie vote. I think Maria does vote for Charlie there. And then at that point, I think it just solidifies Hunter's vote for him, because if anyone's going to make a vote based off fire, it's Hunter.
Yeah.
It's Hunter.
Now not to jump ahead to fire, and it's not even talking about this challenge specifically.
No.
But that's what I can't stand. I was at least happy that this time there was no one in the jury saying, well, you should have gone down there and made fire yourself. Now, Ben had no shot at winning, so maybe that's why we didn't see it. But I just hate that concept. Like, the whole point is to stay out of fire. So I don't like in the new, I don't want to say new era, because it was even happening in the end of, it even started at Ben, how that gets to add to your resume. Like, no, you should also be able to add to your resume the fact that you didn't even have to compete. You either won immunity or you convinced someone to bring you there. And here's why they were wrong. So
it's like someone saying like, oh, I didn't get any votes. It's like, so you didn't play hard enough to have anybody want you out of this game enough. So therefore you're not, that's a mark against you that you didn't get any votes. When in like old Survivor, it's like opposite Survivor almost. Yeah.
But what I appreciate about this vote is I feel that didn't ultimately impact the win, because I think Maria had as much as we saw the first few minutes of the reunion, Maria said, oh, it's the fire in her eye as she made fire, and like what she means and what she's striving for and what she represents. Like, it was more than just the fire. Like, and you could say it's even just butthurt feelings over how Charlie sent her out, and her having to learn after the fact that, oh, it wasn't just me thinking it, he was pushing harder. And like, some people will respect that and vote for it, and some people won't. And that's like, so in a world where we're talking about like what's the best game, or the best game didn't win, I will say I agree with Charlie that no matter what we see at the end, the jury votes for what they vote, and we're not the jury.
The jury is always right. The time that you're spending,
we may not agree with it, but they're right.
Yeah, you may not agree with it, but they're right. And if you're not winning, it's shame on Charlie, because you know what Charlie had the opportunity to do that entire time he was on the island? He got to know Hunter Kevin, everyone that was on that jury, and what matters to them. How do they see the game? And if you can't frame yourself in a way that best gives the best sales pitch for them to vote for you, then you didn't do your job right. It doesn't matter that I see it this way. This is how everyone should. We're pulling people from all over the place. No one's going to look at everything the same exact way. So as much as I still see it in the comments, a bitter jury, and I know it's going to be flooded everywhere, all throughout Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else, the jury doesn't get it wrong. It's up to the jury for them to decide who they want to vote for. They decided they like Kenzie's game better than Charlie. The jury got it right because they just did.
I am going to pull this guy up because he's right. Game botting isn't going to guarantee you to win. And by no means am I going to call Charlie himself a game bot. Like, did he do things a little more robotically? For sure. But I would say he's one of the lesser like game bots in that archetype of like, oh, I'm the strategic guy. I'm the one making all the plans. But I just think overall, Survivor is a social experiment, and the emphasis is on social. Like that's what the game was based on its originality. It wasn't called a strategic game. It was called a social experiment. Social strategy is the biggest component. And I was saying to Dan the other week, there's a reason why the word social comes first before strategy, because social is strategy. How do you interact with someone? How do you get, that's the whole point of a jury vote, is how do you get the people that you just voted out this game and you played in their faces to come around and be like, but I like you too, so I'm going to vote for you.
I was going to save this till the end, but we're here, and it's just the fact of more, where did my old Survivor go? Well, people have been voting for who they've liked since the beginning. People liked Hatch more. Hatch won. We'll go back to, it was Colby Donaldson was Survivor's first golden boy. He didn't win Survivor. People like Tina more. Yeah, so Tina won. Even go back to, people want to say, oh, Tony. Yes, Tony was wild, played this crazy social game. You know who he sat against the first time? Woo. Nobody liked Woo, so Tony won. Boston Rob got his win. He got against Philip and Natalie, two people that everyone hated, that everyone has speculated that if Boston Rob went to the end with any two other people, he wasn't going to win because someone more likable would have been there. So this is nothing new. If you can point to me the time where, well, so-and-so won despite not being the most likable because they had a better strategy, that is the exception. It is not the rule.
And also the hammer on the head about bitterness and a bitter jury. Unfortunately, for the people who get to the end of the game, that's on you. That's on you to manage people that have butthurt feelings and bitterness. And sometimes even no matter what you do, the fact that you already sent them out is enough for them to never cast their vote for you. I'm not going to say that anyone I believe them when they say, like, half of them raise their hand saying, yeah, I changed my vote. I changed my vote live because I only wanted to know the answer to my individual question. Like, if those are the people that you're working with, that's the people you're working with. It's Gabon. Gabon's a very polarizing season too, so I get that. But
I did love it from where they were raising their hands and saying who changed their vote. The only thing that did was it made the vote closer. It made it 5-3 instead of 6-2 because 3 of the 5 that raised their hand switched to Charlie.
Yeah.
So Kenzie was the front runner going into it, and maybe it got a little closer than what it needed, but she's always going to win this.
There's a balance to it. It's this season in itself, in a vacuum, isn't saying that strategy can't win you the game of Survivor. Like solely strategy with some social elements. Because it would be dismissive of Charlie's game to say that he wasn't playing a social game because he was always keeping his options open. It's just that how is it received by the jury, and what are their thoughts about you as you are leaving the game? And everyone was leaving the game already feeling so positive about their time with Kenzie. There's so many exit interviews that come out here with people saying, yeah, I thought Kenzie was my number one before I got voted out. So there's a reason why they still were open to voting for Kenzie, whereas there were people who thought they were Charlie's number one who didn't ultimately. And that's the stuff that you'll just have to look through.
And we're not going to address every comment that's there, but how do you turn a bitter jury? I don't know. Todd did it in China, so it's clearly possible. It's up to you to make that happen. Just because they're bitter and against you, sure, there are some people that you're never going to be able to turn your way. That probably just means that you didn't do a good enough job while you were still both in the game. Outside of it, there's always a way. We talked early in this podcast about ego. I'm sure there's a few people here that if you really just pleaded to their ego, probably could have flipped a few votes.
Or, when worst comes to worst, lie.
Yes.
Lie your ass off. What am I going to do with the money? I'm not going to keep a single cent of it. I'm going to give it to all these charities. I'm going to you could make up some. Todd won because he lied.
I think that's sorry. Go ahead, Wayne.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, this is kind of talking to the game bot comment in regards to Charlie, not calling him a total game bot, but it's just you could tell from some of his answers and stuff like that. He was checking off things in his mind that he thought he needed to answer for this jury.
Look at how he even answered the money question. He hit all the stereotypical boxes of, well, I want to go back to school. I want to take care of my family. I want to, give to not just one charity, but several charities. It's just
dude, it's only $1 million.
Yeah. No one's going to buy that you're actually doing
600,000 after Obama gets through with it.
But no one's going to buy that you're actually doing all of that. Give a real, true, honest answer. If he just would have said, I want to go to law school and really harp that was the main thing that he was going to do, that's a better answer than trying to check as many boxes as possible. Because I feel like we see it so often. It's in life, but it's at the end of the game when talking to the jury is people think that they need to make, 7 points to really prove their point home. You don't need to make 7 points where 3 are good and 4 are shit. Just really hammer home the good points.
I think that the jury saw more of themselves in Kenzie than they did in Charlie, knowing that this is a very look at me jury. We were talking, it's they're the stars of their own shows kind of. And Kenzie's just yeah, dog, I've been busting my ass my whole life and I don't want to bust my ass forever. That's a very real answer. And I think most of the jury definitely identified with that answer.
Well, it's for example, there's the reason why someone like a Keith Nail gets cut at the end before he gets in. Is he a strategic force? No. Rest his soul. But his life story is what people would have voted for at the end. It's we love this man and we are going to reward him with $1 million. And then he would have been on Winners at War, get to the end, and they would have given him a second thing of $2 million. That's the type of man that he is. So it's all based off the cast. It's all based off what you want as the players in that game. What are you looking for? Not just as a winner, but this is how you would have wanted the vote to go if you were in their shoes. Q is voting for that because he knows he grew up in poverty and then was able to work his way out of it. So he understands what the value of what the win means in terms of financially. And so he picked the person that he saw as this is who I want to go for. This is who it's going to be. I was originally going to go for Charlie, just if I'm just strictly strategy and nothing else involved. But between the answers at Final Tribal Council and what the money meant, that outweighed but I was able to make a big move.
Well, and also you brought up Q there, and I know we're bouncing way far ahead, but this is finale.
I mean,
we'll talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Here, Final Four immunity challenge.
But look at how,
what happened. Ben wins. Okay, now we're
but look at how Q and Kenzie's interaction. The first few questions that are going back and forth, Kenzie was kind of going at Q and not just pandering, being I got to be nice to him to make sure I get his vote. She was going to speak her truth there, whatever you want to call it, and was answering how she felt she needed to answer the question. And at the end, it didn't matter that she was going at Q. She gave the better answers, where Charlie kind of beat around the bush and was well, I can't say anything that's going to make anyone upset. And if you're never making anyone upset, maybe you're not really making the best points.
Yeah. So with all that, I'll bring us back around. We're heading into Final Four immunity, and the only other thing to note is this is where Liz also is talking about, like, well, we know the implications of after this is fire. Look, every single time I do this, I crack my wrist, which isn't really an uncommon thing. I think a lot of people, like,
really?
not to the extent
No.
that she has it.
She
But,
had
like,
Beetlejuice wrist.
You can crack a wrist.
Yeah,
You
of course
know?
you can crack her. You can crack your fingers, but if you go like this and it just sounds like skeleton bones going against each other, it's not healthy, dude. How is she? I mean, I don't know how she's alive. Liz amazes me as an entire being.
Wild.
Liz amazes me.
It's wild.
Yeah.
But what's even more wild is at that point she goes, well, I'm obviously the biggest threat left in the game, and I'm losing it. And I'm like, this is why, we kept saying, like, why the hell was Liz cast? She can't eat anything. I'm like, this is why she's cast. She's on another planet.
Yeah,
we just didn't get it until 3 episodes ago.
And you know what? Maybe we were deprived. Maybe we were deprived.
We were, because you brought it up how she was this biggest threat. It wasn't that she said it once. She kept doubling down on it the remainder of her time on the island, even when she was voted off. And it was amazing.
And it was like when she got voted off, I started debating with myself. I'm like, is she in on the bit? Like, is she finally in on the bit and she's just doing this for the lulz at this point? Because she obviously likes to just make a bunch of jokes that, because of the last challenge, I think Jeff was very much over Liz. Because she comes in, she has like the little walking cane because Kenzie called her grandma 2 votes ago or whatever. And
yeah,
Jeff has to feign it and be like, this is what 25 days gets you, people. He was over it. He wanted to chuck that stick over. But the Final Four immunity challenge, was this last season? It was one of the last 2 seasons where they did this one, right?
I believe it was. I don't think it was last. I think it was 2.
It was 44 with Jam. Yeah. Okay. That's what I was thinking.
Could be wrong.
We're not surviving. That's why we have the quotation marks over experts, folks.
Here, the man on the keyboards will look it up. You guys keep talking.
Cool. Okay, so essentially you're making a very easy puzzle while also managing essentially a timer. You have to throw a ball up. It's like a pachinko board or a plinko board, whatever.
Plinko from Price is Right.
Yeah, it's Plinko from Price is Right. Where's Drew Carey when we need him?
Bob Barker, don't bring that trash in here.
I'm just throwing any name of a host I can think of. But so the ball will eventually go down and you need to stop it from hitting the metal bar. If it hits the metal bar, it then goes very slowly through the rest of the tunnels before you can start going again. And Charlie loses this because he hits it twice. Liz loses it because she was going to always lose it. Kenzie probably ultimately loses this because of an errant throw that like just goes completely off of the board entirely, and I think that like took away her strength, so then it took a few more times for her to get it up to the top, which then allowed Ben, who wanted to make everyone remember that he only sleeps 2 hours a night, maybe was the most focused person. And you know what, I respected his strategy, because that's the strategy you use to win something that's simple. Like something as simple as like, this is a puzzle. You just have to stop a ball. Be conservative. Get 2 pieces on, or figure out pieces you want to put on for the next round. Grab the ball, throw it up, get it done. Like he did what he needed to do, and he gets to have his immunity. Rock on, shred.
I mean, I know you guys are challenge experts. It's the same thing. That's how Adam won his challenge, cross pods. But it's the same thing. You just like a little bit at a time. You don't try and overcommit too much and mess up.
So the only reason why I'm laughing is because when Alex was describing Kenzie, because prior to watching Survivor, I'd watched the challenge episode. All I could think of was the Steve handjob joke, but I was like, no, wrong show.
To hear more about handjob Steve, tune in tomorrow afternoon as Dan, Lauren, Pratt, and myself cover the most recent episode of Challenge All-Stars. And boy, you want to tune in, and you want to tune in live.
I never want to watch another season without Handjob Steve. All right, back to Survivor.
There we go. Yeah, so Ben wins immunity. He's like taking it all in, then like the weight of it for his emotions like come to him because like shit, I have to put one of my best friends in the fire. But not before he sits Liz down and be like, Liz, you're the biggest threat in the game. You've played the hardest game because you haven't eaten and the rest of your tribe is on the jury. So you're going to make fire. Want a hug?
Off camera was Kenzie and Charlie behind Liz's back just losing their shit.
You know what? Good on Liz for holding it together during that part of it where she's like, look, like, I guess you could do this for me, but like I literally can't even hold the knife without all of my hand cracking. And then, but she doesn't cry until he leaves.
Yeah.
But then it's between Kenzie and Charlie. And I remember early in the season, I was like, oh, maybe Kenzie goes to the fire because like they made it a point of showing her making the fire early on in the season and like making it pretty easily. And we had that intro from her. It's like, oh yeah, I don't feel like obviously there's anxiety, but like I feel confident I could be there in fire. And maybe that's another resume point for me. And you know, we love resume point. I will ignore it because I like Kenzie. It's another thing that could potentially differentiate myself. Because she says at Final Tribal Council, I'd probably let it be the same thing and put myself down there because I see Ben and Charlie having the same game, which is a good subtle dig by her, which she's been very good at all season long of just like digging at these people and it's just like going completely over their heads over what she's doing. And that's part of what I love that. It's like the charm of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, when you're able to get away with essentially calling someone the family dog and then the runner-up of the season, like
it's just one of those where you have like, you know, you have a great conversation and it's not till 15 minutes later like, was I insulted in that conversation? Is that just what happened? Like, how did I miss that?
Dude, when she said the family dog, I was like, what are you saying right now? You have to stop talking. What?
Oh, I love it.
Everyone just laughed.
Well, I heard someone say, I think, and it made sense. I think like she was desperately trying to avoid calling anyone the mom and dad of the group, because if you call someone the mom and dad of the group, that then gives power to them because, you know, of a family household, the mom and dad are the ones in charge. They're the ones who get to make the moves. So, but the family dog doesn't get to make the moves.
So we got grandma and dog for
we got grandma and dog. But yeah, so ultimately he's struggling between the two, but whereas Kenzie is supportive of Ben, and it's like, look, I don't want to put the stress on you. Like, if I have to go in, I'll go in. Obviously, I would prefer not to, but it is your call. Go to Charlie, and Charlie's like, yeah, nah, you know, Kenzie seems to be doing pretty great at fire though, and like, yeah, I had this fire right here. I made like these 5 other ones like instantaneously, but I don't need. I'd rather you just like, if I asked you publicly, would you just take me? Oh, I can't, man. Can't make that decision. Not rock on.
I also think, I mean, because we saw this entire season that Charlie, he came on late. Like the beginning, he was just the Taylor Swift walking reference. And I think here's just another example is I don't know if it's lack of confidence or if he's just unsure because he's still younger or whatever the case may be. But it just seemed like with everything that he did, he was always just slightly behind. Like he was probably slightly behind where he could have made a move on Q and Maria, despite the fact that it did work out for him. And I think he was just one beat off the entire season. And that just ended up making all the difference in the world.
We love one beat off when you're a music guy.
Hey, no more hand job jokes.
Hand jobs.
Hey, well, tune in tomorrow if you want the hand job jokes. Because we do see Steve handle a pole. Yeah.
Watched it yet.
Yeah. Hey,
Wayne's
that
whole
doesn't
face
give
just
away.
lit
It
up.
literally does not give away anything.
It
Oh
does
no,
not.
not at all. No. I'm not saying spoil. I'm like excited to hear Steve handle a poll.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah. All
Okay,
right.
but this gets us to tribal council, and ultimately, Ben, Ben's like very much about like this is about the money, like this is about what it means to someone. So Liz is going in, and then he's just weighing out in public that what Charlie and Kenzie mean to him, and ultimately he puts Kenzie on really because Charlie was there from day one, of which Kenzie never had the option to, which again is Survivor. So we go to our fire making, which like Jeff then makes a point of saying, we're not going here to break records. You're just here to beat the other person.
Well,
Whose fault is that, Jeff?
What was funny about that with the records was I think it was on whatever the official Instagram page was. We got flashbacks to the Becky and Sundra fire making in Cook Islands where they had to go to matches and then even Sundra ran out of matches. I was like, ooh, is that the record we're talking about? Like, are we in it all night? Of course, that probably would have killed Kenzie's chances of winning, but it was my favorite fire making challenge. I don't care how quickly you can make it. Entertain me.
No, and I also like that they didn't give everyone a kit. Like, I didn't even think about it. Like, I saw all the knives there, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, ultimately, they both struggle out the gate. Like, Liz gets a couple sparks, but it really means absolutely nothing. She doesn't have it set up right. Kenzie's just like Kenzie's is all just mental. Like, it's just all her being in her own head. It's like the Jesse Lopez of it all. Like, you suddenly have all the pressure of the world on you,
right?
Even though Jesse never fired to begin with. But
I would say I don't think Jesse could legitimately make fire. He can now.
But he was also in his head.
He was also in his head, but it was even more obvious because you could see Q turn to Tiff and say, what's she doing? Like, as a surprise is, we've seen Kenzie do this. Like, this should be nothing for her.
Yeah, that's why I was like very interested by those two talking the entire time, and like you could clearly see the whole group was like rooting for Kenzie, and also during this tribal, like Ben admits that he saw Liz as the biggest threat in the game, and we all see those glances from the jury, especially from Venus.
I was wondering about this, like. Ben got this, like, I mean, there's not an edit we're not seeing about her, right? Like, he absolutely read this wrong. Because
as far as I know,
Because see, here's what I'm thinking. Like, the smart move, and granted, he is not in a mind to make smart moves because he slept like 2 hours in the past 40 days or whatever. But you put Kenzie and Charlie, and you hope that Charlie beats Kenzie, and then maybe you have a shot.
Yeah,
right. Charlie probably sweeps it. Like, it's probably like 6-2 Charlie over Ben, but at least like then you've got a shot over everybody else.
Yeah, the move obviously is to put the two, and like that's the hard part of covering these, where we get to have the outside perspective. We're like, oh yeah, obviously Charlie and Kenzie are the two people to beat, but and that's another wonderful thing about Survivor is you have these people whose motivations are different. And Ben's motivations are to win, but he's also like, but why wouldn't it just rock if I could win with my friends by my side?
Yeah.
With two other people that like could use the money and use it in good ways. Liz already has the money. She doesn't need it. So, and there's also a thing that always happens in Survivor where you're the last remaining person of a tribe that makes up a majority of the jury, where there's just always that little thing in the back of your mind of, I would be kicking myself if I've been overlooking this person the entire time. And I'm not giving Ben this credit, but just in general, like, I would hate if I'm not giving Liz enough credit here when she potentially already has 3 jury votes right here, right now, maybe 4 if Venus is actually in a good mood. Like, you don't know.
Her Twitter is unhinged.
Oh, Twitter
is fighting with Empire State Building right now.
That's so funny.
But no, I agree. I think it was just another bad read on Ben, which isn't surprising for the season. I mean, how many people went home with idols? 5? Like,
5.
it's been the season of bad reads, and this is
It's
just
been-
another example of someone on
Yeah.
this cast having a bad read, which is why the last 9 episodes of the season were such enjoyable, because it was a mess.
Yep.
Yeah, there's 6 in like the last 2 seasons between this and 45 with our good boy Bruce Pearl,
Bruce.
2-time player Bruce, going out with an
Drunk
idol in his pocket.
Drunk Uncle Bruce.
Drunk Uncle Bruce. Okay, but ultimately Kenzie like takes a pause, recollects herself, and as Q said, you crack a pipe and make a diamond. And through the pressure, obviously.
Yeah,
Love Q. She wins, and Liz immediately just goes, "But we all expected you to win." No one's surprised by this, and they're just saying there like, "Liz, like, how are you feeling?" And Liz like, "I would have beaten all of you.
Would have got
We
all
all
y'all motherfuckers.
quit." And again, it cuts to Venus. She's like, this is very awkward right now. But this is the Liz that we got all season long, and I have finally turned. Like, it took a long time for us to turn the corner, but I did turn the corner on Liz by the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. It was great entertainment. I will have you on again and have Applebee's as a reward, and make sure you don't get it again just to see the next outburst.
I just want to see her for that episode. Just bring her in for the Applebee's.
Bring her back from the edge. We can bring the edge back just for Applebee's. And if you don't win the Applebee's reward, you have to leave. But you're not allowed to have Applebee's when you fly back home. We'll monitor it. It's on your contract. But then, we get the next thing. They're celebrating their final 3. They're having their breakfast. We get the jury stuff. I loved the little shot that they did of the jury. I was like,
their
I was trying
mixtape
to
album.
figure out all 7 of them.
Yeah, their mixtape album.
Yeah, I was like, oh, they're about to drop their next mixtape. That's what I was thinking of. I was like, what is this making me think of right now? But yeah, it's just a bunch of people that, they say they're random stuff. Like, we know Tiffany's rooting for Kenzie. Like, we know all this stuff. So that gets us to Final Tribal Council. Like, we have our 3 people. Ben played an honest game. He was an emotional game, relying on himself and his social ability. Kenzie was all about adapting, and Charlie was strategic, building the alliances, never closing a door, was always ensuring that he was safe, but not just safe, but with power. But his big thing was, I need to overcome the fact that I was in the shadows. I need to pull the curtain away, and they need to realize that I was the one really spearheading a lot of these moves. So that gets us to Final Tribal Council. Who didn't get a question, or who did we not see get a question? Maria and Liz?
We didn't see much from either of them.
Well, we heard enough of them chat. Because this may have been one of the most vocal juries we had in this format.
Boy, they certainly like to tell long questions that were leading answers.
And man, generally when you say, oh, tell us about yourself or whatever the question is in like 30 seconds or less, there isn't a timer on it. It's just...
Oh, I love that. I also love the person who's deciding to be the timer. The person who made the timer is one of 2 things there. One, they already knew their answer. They already knew who they were voting for. So Tiffany's just like, I will count. I do not care. Hey, but she pressed it on Kenzie too. She stopped Kenzie from talking as well. She didn't play favorites. But that was the other thing I was thinking of. I was like, oh, don't worry, everyone. I will be the impartial 30-second timer. Because we all know we can accurately count time here.
It was, it almost seemed like for us, it was the first 3 minutes out there. I'm sure it was the first hour. But it was like, all right, we're just going to give the jury time to really feel themselves, and then we'll get to more of the important stuff of the tribal council.
Yeah, because like honestly, part of me as a juror would have given Kenzie my vote as soon as that first outburst between her and Q happens, where Kenzie's trying to explain the reality of what happened, and Q's like, "Nope, that never happened. Never." It's like it was full like LeVar Ball, like never lost,
Never lost,
never
undefeated.
never lost a game. It was always I always had the right idea, and like him and Tiffany are going at it. They're like Liz is trying to interject, like, "Hey, I'd rather just hear Kenzie talk, not either of you two." But like literally, that's part of it. I'm like, because a lot of times you don't factor in the pre-jury of it all, like the pre-jury part of the game, and I think it's still an important part of the game to touch on. But I will just be like, "Oh, so that's what you were dealing with for the first 2 weeks of the game." How?
Plus Banu, which let me tell you was not a treat.
And Legend Jelinski. Like, part of me would have actually considered that. It'd be like, my question would have been like, how did you handle this? pointing at Q. It'd just be like, how did you not have him go after you? Because he's been spending all this time at Ponderosa saying, here's all these times where I wanted the vote to end up being on Kenzie. And here are the reasons why he wanted it to be on you, and saying you were a threat. So speak on that, and you get my vote. Like, it could have been just as simple as that. But was there any like major ones that you guys wanted to highlight of from FTC? Any answers, how people went about it? You know, let's do it that way. How did Ben go around for you through Tribal, based off your expectations of Ben?
Ben was at Final Tribal?
Yeah.
I mean, it always happens now.
I mean, it was, we didn't really see much, but he was exactly what he probably said vibes 4 or 5 times, and that's what I expect from Ben.
Yeah. Honestly, on all 3 of them, I kind of like got exactly what I expected from him. You know, it's pretty much played out as I thought it would have played going into it. Even down to the jury questions, they were just like, you know, oh, Venus is going to have some convoluted question. Like, I don't know. Just some of those questions were like, how did you take a mistake that you made and turn it on its head and capitalize? It's like, well, that's an unfair question, because not everyone's game involves mistakes and then has the opportunity to turn it on its head and capitalize it. Like, that's crazy. That's a crazy question to ask.
Yeah. And also for a lot of us who are against like the whole like resume bucket list, whatever, like resume's all about your big moves. It's like sometimes your big move is just being social. Like Ben's big move was, I was a likable guy, and that brought me into plans.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, like, people are so focused on it needing to be well, you see, at Final 9, I went and gained Wayne's trust. And because I gained Wayne's trust, he gave me tips on how to grow a mustache. But I used that strategy to then talk to Dan and be like, but we should vote him out because we're pro beard and not pro mustache. And that's how we betrayed Wayne and send him out. And that's the big move. But sometimes the big move is just, look, I tried to play the game as a social player who was in the know in votes. And when I sent you guys out, I sent you guys out with a smile because I wanted you to remember that my relationship with you were genuine. And sometimes that's all you need in order to win the game.
Look at Kenzie, because we saw some of that. If you're going back to the beginning of the merge, where I know what you're laughing at the beginning of the merge, the Yanu 3 had more of a play because they were the minority group. So they kind of got to dictate which way they were going to go and who was going to go home. But then once it more evened out, she even said, I'm stepping back and I'm going to let other people drive this vote, because it's smart. Because once you get past a few votes into the merge, if you're the one that, oh, this is the vote I want to drive, guess what ends up happening? You go home. There is no one that can play, the Boston Rob buddy system that is just able to bully ball the entire game. So that's the smart thing to do is make your impact when you can. But outside of that, just float back in the shadows and just make sure that you get along with everyone. It's the best thing you can do.
And you have to like toe this line. You have to toe this line between taking the credit for other people's moves, but you can do that if you have a pulse on how the jurors will react, especially the ones that believe that they were the ones who did the move. Because like it doesn't matter. Dan and I are number ones. If Dan had me out in the front and I was the one thinking I made all the moves, and then I get taken out, I'm not just going to suddenly magically believe that, no, Dan's going to come in and claim that they were all his moves. At most, I'd be like, no, we did it together. So maybe I'll give you that partial credit, but what did you do behind my back? And when you learn, like Charlie does, like he has to try to pitch the whole, well, I did the Venus vote at 7 in order to fool Q and Maria, especially Maria, who thought we were still number ones at that time. And even though she tried to take a hit at me, I had already worked against her rounds prior to ensure that it was you. And that could have sat negatively with her. That could have been like, okay, like I act impulsively and I went at you at 6, but you were planning my demise.
Well, that just got me thinking is that would totally make sense for this season. Is Charlie trying to take credit for a move? And there's 3 people on the jury that just sort of cross-arm being like, motherfucker, that was my move. Why is no one giving me credit for that?
Yeah, so
because that was half the story for like 3 episodes was people just whining and bitching about not getting credit for the move that someone else was taking credit for.
Yeah. And that's why I think Kenzie resonates more with some of the jurors is she was like, and she was straight up. Like when she fucked up, she said, yeah, I fucked up here. Like, yes, I wasn't the leader of these votes, but I always, for the most part, outside of the Tiffany blinds, I knew where the vote was going. And it's like, it's the Michelle win. Michelle win was like, I never led the vote, but I always was a valuable vote for people who wanted something done. And and that's a pretty good example to give here is you had it that, and I think that is what's going to get comparison is the Co-Wrong finale, where you have Aubrey, who's the symbol of the strategy, with some evidence of an evolving social game, and Charlie, and then you have Michelle, who's the Kenzie, or Kenzie, who's the Michelle, like whoever, don't get butthurt over the order of the names I say. But that prioritize being social, being a likable person, and being a vote. And ultimately, never, while having their name discussed, never truly being considered to go home.
Maybe that's just what everyone needs is over the next, 6-8 seasons, is Charlie can come back 2 more times and completely tank everything that she built her first time. And then people will finally give Kenzie the recognition she deserves. Because that's what happened with Michelle. Everyone hated on her so much. And then we saw that Aubrey maybe wasn't that great. Yeah, we like Michelle. She's great.
Yeah. And I don't wish that future on Charlie, though.
I don't either.
Because that's a brutal future for him if he's just an Aubrey. I don't want that on him. But so we ultimately get a vote, and they're really teasing us now with it could be a tie vote. Like you have jurors that are literally like talking to each other, like I still do not know which one of these 2 people I'm gonna vote for. And ultimately we do get a vote. It's 5-3-0. Kenzie, Charlie, Ben. Ben was there, folks. But
allegedly
we get Kenzie as our winner. I want to now talk about strictly on winning the game of our new era. I believe last season we ranked D as our best winner of the new era. Does Kenzie go over, or is it still D holding that crown for best winner of the new era?
Yeah, I think I'm going to say D is, even though I don't want that to take anything away from the game that Kenzie played. I'm not going to be one of those people that says she floated along. I totally agree that her strategy was the hand she was dealt and just existing as long as she can. And
You said hand. I had to finish it.
Oh.
Just like hand job Steve.
yeah. But
no,
but I
I
do
agree
think
with you.
if we're ranking, I'm still putting D above Kenzie.
Well, D did also get an ad in this finale night.
How many miles did she have to walk for that ad, dude? She just was always out of breath and walking.
Why do you think her Instagram is just her like doing workouts and a bunch of like biking and walking? She had to get ready for this.
Yeah. So,
Dan, how about you?
And then they followed up her ad with just another ad for the same show done professionally, like as a commercial. It was very funny. It was like, oh, D.
Which answer do you want?
I want the truth, Dan. I want the truth.
In my
or
head,
you don't get my vote.
In my head, I still would have D ranked. I think she played the best game of the new era. In my head, in my heart, and where I'm going to go, I'll be a homer. I'll go down with the ship. I'm going to say Kenzie, not only because she was my winner pick. She lives right here in Charlotte. I've met her. She is absolutely lovely in person. I've met her. I've seen her outside of Survivor events as well. Remembers my name. Can see why she's so good socially. Yeah, I'm going to go homer. That's where I'm going. If we could revisit it, I found some extra shit. I know there's like 3 or 4 like Gabler diehards in here. I'm not going to tell you the shit that I found out about him. But if I could plummet that man even further down on my rankings list, I would. I'm not going to share it because it's not my story to tell. Very upset. I'll tell you offline.
That's not where I thought this podcast was going.
Ooh, wow. I
got some inside information, and no, it isn't from Johnny Fairplay. I have my own sources.
Whoa,
lovely.
We don't need Johnny anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
love you, Johnny.
I'm also gonna help us slow down this podcast, bring it to an end. But I do want to give Charlie his flowers. I do think he played an exceptional game, especially on this season. Strategic wise, definitely was player of the season from just being able to make the moves, navigate the game how he wanted to. Great job by him. Second place is good. I will say, if season 47 folks are still listening, which they shouldn't at this point, if you see a lawyer from the Boston, Mass area, you got to take him out. Last season, got 3rd place with no votes. This season, 2nd place with 3 votes. If you see a Boston lawyer, or it really just don't even risk it. If you know they're from Boston, you gotta take them out.
No,
that's not just me being a Sixers fan who hates the Celtics. It's just, you gotta protect yourself. Get rid of the Boston.
No, what they should do is, before going out there, is you get in contact with me. I'm very bribable, and you say, hey, when it comes to the cast assessment, have me be your winner pick. Because of the 2 official picks I've made, I got a 2nd and a 1st. So you're walking away with a minimum $100,000. So I'm just going to take a very small portion of that. You'll become my winner pick, and you'll do very well on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think I still have like several chances to pick a winner.
Indeed, you do.
I do have a question. I feel like we've talked about this the last couple seasons. Returning players.
Yes.
I think I will say this cast has more people that I think could like potentially come back as returning players. Not that they will, we know whatever, but like I think it would do them well to recast some of these like more of these people than other seasons of the new era.
Oh, I agree.
It's like Soda, Q, Tiffany, Maria, Charlie.
I think if you are Survivor casting and you don't have like Q and Venus on your short list of who to bring back,
Venus,
big mistake. Cancel Christmas.
The good thing for this cast is we know a returnee season is coming, because I think, as always, timing is everything. Because there would have been some people now, like going back to 41, you would have thought Ricard Like he's guaranteed he's going to come back at some point, but it's been so long. We've seen people that have had, I want to say, similar or better Ricard arcs that I don't know if he would. Not saying that he wouldn't be brought back, but he's not a slam dunk that you'd think as soon as the season's over. Same thing with like a Shan, where it happened so long. And I get it hasn't actually been that long, but in Survivor terms, it's been a while. That the further away you get from the season, it's just less and less likely that you're gonna be brought back.
Yeah, and it'll be very interesting to see as we get further and further closer to season 50. But we got 3 more seasons before we get there, folks, and we'll be here all the way as this ever-evolving reality after show platform continues to grow. We have so much going on here. Like, obviously, this will be our Survivor off season. We still have like the back half of the Challenge All-Stars. Again, Dan, myself, and Lauren will be back tomorrow talking the latest episode of Challenge All-Stars Season 4. You will want to tune in, whether live or immediately on your wherever you listen to your podcasts after. You'll want to listen. And please give us a 5 stars on these because it might get unhinged. It might get unhinged tomorrow. Besides that, we also have a lot of new content. We have Wendell, Bryce, and Derek Frazier covering The GOAT, which should have a new one releasing this week as well for the latest episode that drops.
For my money, the only podcast on this network that is better than the show itself. All right, that's all I'm going to say.
There we go.
love the podcast. That show is it's
We also have the Reality Kings podcast that had its inaugural episode of Johnny and King George.
They'll have better mics next time, we promise.
Yes, all I can say is they'll have better mics, but it's funny.
I think they were sharing Fair Play's iPhone.
Obviously, the best way to support us is to become a patron at realitypatron.com. That is realitypatron.com. That's where you can get our weekly Q&A podcast, as well as other content as we are in our off season. We'll probably get back into Matt's Australian Survivor Rewind as we go through what's next for him.
Blood versus Water.
Blood versus Water, which holds a special place in my heart. I think that was the first season we were on the team that we covered.
Yeah, it was the first one that I.
Well, you covered. I just interviewed Mark Wales.
Yeah, and then it's where it met me to that lovely gem of a person, Chrissy, who I will always hold near and dear to my heart.
But yes, that's realitypatron.com where you can come support us. Try us for a month. If you don't like it, we'll give you your money back. We don't hold hostages here. And, always look out as new Survivor seasons come along. I'm sure if Johnny's going to have watch parties like he did tonight and majority of the season, you'll be able to find most of that stuff at survivortix.com. Yeah, Dan, Wayne, we have wrapped up another season of Survivor. Thank you all for listening live and ignoring the reunion for some of you. Appreciate all of you for that. We're better than the reunion. We know that. But until next time, we'll see you all later. Peace out.
Peace.